Hey everybody, Nick here from another BookTube channel. I have a cold, I am on cold medicine, and I have not written a script for this video, but despite all of that, we're going to talk about Dawnshard by Brandon Sanderson. Dawnshard is book 3.5 in the Stormlight archive, and I will say up front that if you have not read the rest of the Stormlight books, this is not going to work for you as a standalone novella. It is very much dependent on you reading those first three books at least to understand why some of the things that happen in here are important and relevant. I just think you won't get the full impact of the story if you're not actually in the midst of reading Stormlight. I'm not going to go too deeply into the plot, but just know that the main characters in this book are Ryzen, or Ryson, I'm not sure, it's R-Y-S-N. She's popped up in a couple chapters in Stormlight in the first three books, mostly away from the main storylines and not really interacting with the primary characters. She is a trader in training, basically. In this book, she is now a full ship owner. This is after she has become physically disabled from the events of the previous books. And she is now, Ryzen is now interacting with the main storyline a little bit. Navani, recruits her to investigate a mysterious island that Navani believes holds an oath gate. And if you oh my god, if you haven't read the first three Stormlight books, this is all nonsense to you. But if you have, you know what I'm talking about. They think there's an oath gate there, and they've sent expeditions out to try to find it, and they keep being rebuffed. They send windrunners in, and their powers just are taken from them immediately, and they fall into the ocean. They've sent ships there, and they've come back as ghost ships. So Ryzen volunteers to lead her own ship expedition into there because her pet, Chiri Chiri, is sick, and she believes that going to that island will heal the pet in some way. Oh my god. It's so hard to even talk about Stormlight when you're not sick. Another main character here is Lopin, the Windrunner from Bridge 4, that I imagine is a fan favorite. He's a very silly character. The once one-armed Herdasian joins Ryson on this trip, while he is personally in pursuit of being worthy of saying the third ideal, to take his radiantness to the next level. Dawnshard fits right in with the rest of the Stormlight Archive books in terms of quality. It is really strong, it's a really fun adventure, and it's anchored by, as usual, terrific characters. Ryzen is a physically disabled character. She is a wheelchair user after losing movement in her legs from an accident. Mental disabilities and mental illness are usually at the forefront of Stormlight. It was interesting to see a story with a physically disabled person at the forefront, and the language and experiences of Ryzen as a wheelchair user, I thought were really honest and empathetic. There were a lot of situations and conversations that happened here that were particularly about her disability and about her trying to kind of regain that sense of freedom of mobility in a world that was designed without people like her in mind. And that's a common theme that comes up, where as she's kind of discovering possible advances in wheelchair technology, she wants to share it as much as possible, because she has kind of, in the fantasy sci-fi message boards of this world, she's met with other, or spoken to other wheelchair users who share her own struggles, who are also dealing with, that lack of freedom of mobility. And so she's really eager to find advancements and share it with that world to make it a more accessible place. Oh my god, I'm so sick. One particularly strong scene here is the Ardent that's traveling with Ryzen, who is doing the research into wheelchair advancement, wants to check something on Ryzen's existing wheelchair. And so the Ardent goes up to her and says, "Do you mind if I, check your wheelchair for a second?" And then she doesn't wait for an answer, and she just goes under and starts fiddling with the wheelchair. And we hear in Ryzen's internal monologue, this makes her extremely uncomfortable, because what people don't realize is that when you are a wheelchair user, the wheelchair is basically an extension of your body. It is part of you, and it's the equivalent of somebody just touching you on the arm without permission or without awaiting your consent. And so Ryzen stops the Ardent and says, "Actually, I do mind," and explains everything that I just said. Can you back up? Can you ask again? And can you please wait for my actual consent for it? It's a really good scene. It's something that I've seen in person. It's something that I've spoken to wheelchair users in the past, and they've expressed the same thing, that this is a real part of their life. So I just think it's great to see that honest portrayal in a book like this. Dawnshard is pretty short by Brandon Sanderson standards. It's about 290 pages, which for any other author would be considered a full novel, but this is really more of a novella. It doesn't take very long to read, and it is something that I definitely recommend. If you are on the Stormlight journey, and you're thinking oh, can I leave out Dawnshard? Can I leave out Edge Dancer? I would say, you technically can, but why would you? You're already in so deep with the main books being over 1,000 pages in length each. Why not pick up a short Stormlight story just to, cleanse your palate if you need to take a little bit of a break after those long books, but also flesh out the world even more and give these side characters a chance to shine and really, show you why Sanderson is including them in the first place. All right, that's all I can really get through. Sorry for how jumbled this is, and sorry about how I probably sound and look right now. But yeah, my arbitrary and subjective grade for Dawnshard is 8 out of 10. Do with that what you will. If you've read Dawnshard, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that it is essential for a Stormlight read-through? Can you leave it out? Should you leave it out? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for spending some time with me today. But now, it's time to get back to cold medicine.